So I just wanted to thank the Mackenzie Institute for having me here today. If any of you were at one of the events previously, you will remember me as the person who said that she was going to drink her way through the zombie apocalypse, which I thought would be about 3 days. But today we're going to talk about something a lot more cheerful and fun, which is the international and domestic cyber concerns related to fraud. And I'm going to just open up by saying that I'm really going to focus more on talking about organized crime or disorganized crime to some degree, and not on terrorism or nation states, just because in terms of the timelines, they're pretty short. And I actually think that this will give you a little more insight into things that may impact your day-to-day life. So I'm going to open up with a bit of a video. It's just 2 minutes long, but I think it's really fun. All right, so I love that video just because it sort of brings a lot of things right to the forefront up, right away. I can tell you that I definitely have an attention span that is less than the 7 seconds that's projected on that. So goldfish beats me every time. But you'll notice that the 4 C's of digital were discussed, which is creating, curating, connecting, and culture. Traditionally, these are things that police agencies are not good at. They're not even things that we necessarily focus on. So although, while I would say we're shifting all the time, we certainly are getting there, that it's a big transition. And that's why I put this slide up as well, because more and more real life investigations are starting to have some sort of a parallel digital cyber social component. So things that you wouldn't necessarily think of as being cyber related, such as a homicide, may absolutely be cyber digital related. And this is really challenging for officers. I'm going to go a little bit beyond the assumptions that you were talking about, Stephanie, in terms of people's age. The average age of a member of the Toronto Police Service right now is currently 39 years of age. So we have a bit of a digital gap in our service because we just don't have as many millennials as other corporate entities might. And that's something that we're working on. We're working to improve digital literacy, but it has an impact on how we're able to manage investigations when they come in. For example, would an officer that you phone to come to your house about a break and enter necessarily check for IP logs to see whether or not a device registered on your internet to try to connect to see if there was evidence of somebody being there in your house? I'm going to suggest to you that most officers just wouldn't even think to do that. So can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So this is the traditional sort of hierarchical structure of police agencies. This is actually just, I put that up for fun. Just this, these are our different rank structures in the service. And what I'm going to suggest is that we actually need a transformation of how we work internally, because if you look at the people who have the digital literacy that we need, those millennials, those people who are really savvy at getting these things done, they're in our frontline delivery, because they're the people who have been hired in the last few years. So I actually think to some degree that cyber and technology is revolutionizing policing, and that we need to embrace it, because investigations are more and more, investigations are more and more becoming international, and this is a real challenge for us. So I'm going to have you flip to the next one. This is a video, but I'm going to actually speak through it. So if you can imagine, police agencies are typically organized around physical spaces. We have a physical jurisdiction that we are responsible for. This is a DDoS attack. So Norse, you've probably seen this before. Norse does these encapsulations of particular attacks. So if you look at how many countries and nation states are involved in this, if we're dealing with a cyber attack or a major hack that's after personal information, it's very difficult for us, even in a local agency, but even in a federal agency like the RCMP, to deal with this. So just to give you a quick example, if I needed to get evidence from another country, I would have to get a mutual legal assistance treaty, otherwise known as an MLAT. Typically, if it goes well, I can get what I need from another country in 18 months. Some countries don't recognize MLATs, some take much longer than that. In Canada, the recent Jordan decision has changed the game in terms of our trials, and I think it's a great thing. At lower level court, a trial must be concluded by the 18-month mark. At higher court, which are your homicides, your major organized crime trials, everything must be done from beginning to end of that trial in 30 months. So if it takes me 2 years to get an MLAT, and it's a lower level case, it will never see court. It's just not possible. So these are some of the just logistical challenges that we're dealing with, because we're dealing with jurisdictions that are physical, and cyber is completely the opposite of that. Go ahead. So I always go online and find stuff for any kind of presentation I do. So this is I just found on the weekend. So this is a great video from Anonymous. Love those anonymous people. You never know who's involved. And it's actually a download that will show you how to do a DDoS attack. So if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But I mean, it'll show you how to do it. So we've actually had cases where when we've identified someone who's been involved in a crime, they don't know the other people they've been dealing with. So can you imagine committing a crime with a group of people that you met online and have never met in person, right? It seems, to me, that seems odd. I would not do that, but I mean, hey, I'm a cop, right? So, I mean, the fact is, I mean, it's happening all the time. So the traditional connections that we would make between people, they went to school together, they met because they worked together, those kinds of things. Online, it's not necessarily the case at all. And so this is just an example, but we had a major international hack where one of the targets was in Toronto and was arrested. And that person didn't know any of the other players, had never met them in real life. And in fact, that person had obtained the code to be successful in the hack in terms of obtaining the financial information that they were after. It was given to them. So God bless the free net. They were able to go online and get what they needed. And then with very little digital literacy, you know, so you think, oh, we're going to meet this like genius who's in mom's basement, who it's like war games, right? We're going to meet this like amazing genius person. That wasn't the case at all. So even the people you think might be involved in these things are not. Go ahead. So I Googled this on the weekend. It's actually not Google, it's YouTube, although I did use Google to get to YouTube. And so I just ran through YouTube how to get a stolen credit card. And you can't really see it very well here, but there are 112,000 hits. 112,000 hits. Now, normally in the top 10 is this young kid that lives in Pakistan, because he tells you he lives in Pakistan, and I believe him. And he's got access to all kinds of great cards. I think he's been taken down in the last 6 months because I couldn't find him. And I was a bit sad because I like listening to what he has to say. He's pretty smart. But there's some really interesting overviews in how the stolen credit card market works, how you can get one. And there's tons of hits on these. So you can see the top one has 16,000 plus views. The second one has 24,000 plus views, etc. So it's not, you know, the odd person who's researching this stuff and going, oh, that's interesting. These are pretty big hits. So there's a lot of people interested in this information. So counter to that, we are trying to innovate. We are trying to move forward, not just in physical space and doing things better, but becoming more efficient by engaging all things digital, cyber, and social. These are just some examples of some of the current tactics that we use. And what I love about this is people no longer have a digital footprint. I was at a conference just about a week ago, and they were talking now about the digital exhaust. Has anybody heard of that? Digital exhaust. I love that because it reminded me of Linus. So the idea that like it no longer does a footprint make sense or a fingerprint. It's like there's just so much stuff around everyone online that we have to call it a digital exhaust, which I thought was really interesting. All right. So the next one, I'm just going to actually, if you could click one more time. The non-obvious meeting room, I just want to point this out, just things that you may not have think about to do with international problems to do with cyber. So virtual goods, one of the biggest growing economies out there right now. Huge fraud happening with respect to this. If you called a police officer and said, hey, I was on Candy Crush and I've lost thousands of dollars in digital assets, do you think that police officer would know what to do, right? So, but I'll tell you that it's estimated that by 2019, the virtual gaming world will be a business of $17.4 billion. So these are issues that we really need to embrace. If you could go ahead again. And I'm actually just going to click through this, but most of you know this about the deep web, right? It's the vast majority of what you find on the internet. And Tor, so just to show you our challenges with capacity in terms of these investigations. So has everybody heard of Silk Road? Everyone's heard of it, right? Yeah, you can go buy drugs. I'm sure you haven't done that, but you could if you wanted to. You go on Silk Road. Okay, if you could click through. And this is just, an example of what you find. Actually, I found this myself, but it's a little bit dated. It was about a year and a half ago. You can buy an AK-47, if you want to, on Silk Road, right? It's available to you. Go ahead. And then you'll remember that the FBI shut it down and everyone went, yay! And within a very short period of time, it was back up again. And now, again, I got this on the weekend. Now we've gone from one Silk Road to Silk Road 2.0 to Silk Road 3.0, which means that the FBI, with all of their vast resources, are in fact not able to effectively shut down this marketplace. So to some degree, you have to accept that this type of activity is going to continue. Okay. So Bitcoin, I just wanted to mention that as another quick example of the challenges of currency international. So we're dealing with, an international economy that's based on Bitcoin. By the way, Canada, one of the first to embrace it, right? I think we were the second in the world to have a Bitcoin machine. I was really excited. I was at a conference in Vancouver and I tweeted out a picture of me with the Bitcoin machine. I was really excited. And my bosses thought I was insane. They were like, what is that? Why does anyone on Twitter care? And I was like, no, this is really cool. So if you could click through again, just to show you the Bitcoin economy currently. This always makes me laugh because it'll explain to you why I'm a cop. So the first time I became aware of Bitcoin was in 2012, right here. And I thought, that's crazy. Who's going to use this, right? Like, really? But it's been embraced internationally. It is a major currency right now. So the challenge for us in a police agency is, I'll tell you, we've taken down major organized crime rings that are using online activity to do their business. And so what happens is when you take them down, normally you seize their assets. So we've seized Bitcoin. And we've taken it to court, and a judge has said, yeah, I don't know what to do about that. Like how do you seize a digital asset, right? So we've actually had to create our own Bitcoin wallet. It's kind of cool. You go online, create your own Bitcoin wallet, and then move the assets over digitally. The courts have said that we can't actually divest ourselves of those assets, so we can't sell them, which is a problem if we seized your asset in 2014. You're probably not too happy with us by the time it goes to trial, but we can only sell it when the trial is done, and there's a court order to divest ourselves of those funds. So I just want to showcase that things are moving really rapidly. And for us, it means a couple of things I'm going to recommend as we go forward. Yeah, that's perfect. Keep that up for a minute. So we need to really be strategic and innovative. And that's challenging because these are words we all hear, right? I sort of say they're becoming sort of nonsense words, right? So what does that mean? And it means we need to do things differently. In policing, we don't traditionally embrace innovation because it means you're going to try something. And if it doesn't work, then people get really freaked out about it, right? So I talk about the need to fail forward. In business, this is a pretty common thing, right? You know that you need to go out, try new things, and lots of them aren't going to work. We need to really embrace that culturally. And we need to partner with people that we've never partnered with before. Some of the coolest things I've seen in terms of investigative techniques have come either out of the corporate world or out of the academic world. There's some amazing stuff happening in academia right now around cyber and digital. And they're just way beyond where we are. And so we need to embrace those partnerships. So I don't know if any of you have heard of the Canadian Cyber Threat Exchange. I just put that out there as a great example of corporations coming together to protect their own interests and actually do something proactively regarding potential cyber attacks. In the UK, interestingly enough, they've hired criminals, so they've hired hackers to come and work for police agencies. So did anybody ever see Catch Me If You Can? Leonardo DiCaprio, right? So that was a major fraud case, and he was so far ahead of the FBI that when he was done his sentence, they brought him into the FBI and had him work with the FBI because he was innovative and strategic. He was way out in front of them, so they wanted his mind, his knowledge, his understanding of that crime. And I would suggest that we might need to look at doing the same thing in the UK. That's already happening. And I just want to point out that the next challenge will, of course, be how the judicial system deals with this. And I'm just going to give a very quick example. We were giving testimony on a case about a year and a half ago, and we got pretty far into the case, and then the judge actually stopped everything, which is highly unusual. So we thought, has my officer offended the judge? What's going on? And the judge said, I'm sorry, I just need you to explain for me one thing. Can you tell me what this tweet is? Because I don't know what that is. And I thought, oh my God, right? We're in so much trouble. So we're going to have to really educate the judicial system and judges. Again, you're talking about a major disconnect generationally in our judiciary, and so that's going to be a big challenge. And this is I love this slide. I just put this up at the end because I just think it's hilarious. So did anyone ever see the London riots in London, Ontario? It was a couple years ago now, where a bunch of people from Fanshawe, they went out drinking and smashed up some stuff. So anyway, a lot of that case was solved because they were posting photos on Twitter of what they've done. So they thought they would educate the student masses about how not to put what they're doing on Twitter. I thought that was funny. Anyway, thank you very much.